Hello, and welcome to the 36th video in my Punishing Graven lore series. Today we'll cover Chapter 5 of the Floating Record Stories, Sands of Wrath. Previously, Cerberus was caught in the emergence of the Heterozone, in the newest phase of the Hetero creature's evolution. Due to circumstances within the forest, and Vera releasing 21's limiter without permission, she has caught the attention of Corono, putting her squad in the sights of the control court. Now Noctis will use this chance to protect his comrades and explore the surface, to hunt down a lingering shadow from his past. Now without any further delay, Floating Record Chapter 5, Sands of Wrath. In the Cerberus lounge, Noctis wakes up from his nap in a sudden sneezing fit, brought on by 21's tail, positioned squarely on his face. Unfortunately, this is the level of boredom the two have reached, having been confined to their room. After the events of the forest and 21's limiter release, she, and by extension all of Cerberus, are being monitored by one of Babylonia's most troublesome factions, the Control Court. If any evidence of this infraction is found, 21 could be removed from the team, and Vera dismissed from her position as captain, crippling Cerberus as we know it. Today is the last day of the court's investigation, and if they manage to endure, they will lose justification to keep the team confined. However, Vera, who left to comply with the court's investigation, still has not returned, and with his patience nearing its limit, Noctis decides to visit the Science Council, wanting to check on the status of his new arm. Vera told them to stay put and keep out of trouble, but throughout this endeavor Noctis has remained more of an accidental casualty than a priority target, and this still holds true now, to the point that after he left, no one even noticed he didn't walk towards the Science Council. Murray sits in his office buried in documents, searching for a way to free Cerberus from the Control Court's eyes, but as the team's commandant, there's only so much he can do. Soon he is met by Noctis, who manages to sneak his way there, and the two confirm that although the issue is small, the court doesn't seem to want to let it go, most likely meaning Corono is behind it somehow. From his pocket, Murray takes a frame key with forged data, painting Noctis as the one who released 21's limiter. If he takes the heat for the crime, Corono would lose their justification for targeting Vera and 21. Noctis has also asked Murray to look into a certain construct he's been searching for, and Murray finally found a lead. A small town on the outskirts of the clean zone, New Oakley. Using the current situation as an excuse, Noctis plans to hunt down the man in the picture, once a fellow member of the Purifying Force. Meanwhile, in the Control Court interrogation room, Ishmael speaks with Vera regarding their investigation. As today is their last day, the court has decided to use more heavy-handed methods. Ishmael brings an access unit that will allow them to forcefully extract the data within 21's frame, with the procedure likely to greatly decrease her mind stability. Before Vera is forced into making a choice between it and coming clean, Noctis arrives with Lesty, intending to turn himself in. Having validated the frame key's information, and confirming the mission report presented by Graven's commandant, Ishmael sets Vera free. As the room clears out, Lesty wonders if Ishmael will truly let the investigation end like this, but in truth she couldn't care less. The evidence only needs to be conclusive enough for Corono to lose their justification. As for Noctis, while his punishment is still under consideration, one fact is that he will never be permitted to return to Cerberus. So Vera questions why he would go this far, with him simply saying it's because he has something he needs to do. And without another word, she watches him leave down the hall. Following his ejection from Cerberus, Noctis was reassigned to the Purifying Force, and is now on his way to the surface alongside Commandant, who just so happens to be hitching a ride to Constellia. As for the Purifying Force, there's a few new faces Commandant didn't see at Copperfield Aquarium, including a blue-haired construct named Damon. As the leader for this mission, Isarius goes over their target, Echo, the construct who fled Constellia with the test subject, both of whom were seen hiding out in a nearby conservation area. While going over strike plans and mission details, Noctis notices they are near the coordinates of New Oakley. Suddenly he shoots up out of his chair, telling everyone to get down, as an explosion obscures the rest of his words. Following the explosion, Commandant wakes up some time later in a makeshift bed, as Isarius goes over what happened. Their transport exploded, and after searching the external wreckage and explosive residue, Damon comes to the conclusion that the now missing Noctis was the cause. With no way to contact Babylonia, Commandant and Damon use a nearby transport vehicle, speeding towards the town's coordinates to find aid, even passing a large field of wheat. Quite a surprising sight in this day and age. According to Damon, the canyons surrounding the town prevent it from being attacked by corrupted, and soon they come across one such canyon. They cross the bridge, and Damon poses a question to Commandant. Constructs and humans walk a thin line of peace due to the virus, but humans get far more out of the deal. Humans need constructs for protection, but what do constructs need from humans? Damon thinks it's about time to shatter this fragile peace, and has decided to start with the disappearance of Babylonia's greatest hero, the Grey Raven Commandant. He detonates the transport vehicle, and signals for the other defector constructs to reveal themselves. Commandant manages to immobilize two, but there's only so much a human can do when both outnumbered and outgunned. Damon calls for the rest of his reinforcements, only to see Noctis surrounded by a pile of constructs. Since the Purifying Force was out of range, Commandant sent a Hail Mary request, hoping Noctis would respond. And now with nowhere to go, Damon activates a holographic distraction, taking the opportunity to escape towards New Oakley. Together the two give chase and arrive at an old-fashioned town, far different from any of Babylonia's conservation areas. As they look around, the locals slowly begin surrounding them, now brandishing all manner of weapons. The crowd slowly parts, and the two are confronted by a man named Max, the town's mayor. After their encounter with the mayor, Noctis and Commandant are confined to the local inn, as the townspeople don't take kindly to Babylonia. With time to spare, the two clear up some details about their situation. First is a term Damon threw out during his betrayal, Generalissimo, but Noctis seems to be just as clueless. Second is that Noctis was framed for the transport's destruction, but what he himself doesn't understand is how Damon managed to copy his explosive formula, as the only other person in the world who could know it died long ago. Lastly was Noctis' reason for running away. He came here to investigate signs of a construct named Nigel, who could ultimately be the one behind Damon's actions. Commandant suggests going back to the Purifying Force, but at this point they can't be sure who's on their side, so they decide to stay in the town for now, planning to continue their search for Damon in the morning. The next day, the two decide to start investigating, since nothing will get done from inside the inn. As the main target of the defectors, Commandant waits inside the room, as Noctis begins questioning the locals, only to be met with overwhelming rejection. Meanwhile, Damon converses with another construct named Fan, and he says that soon the Forsaken will move through the town, and he promises the locals will remain unharmed. If all goes well, Damon, as a member of the Forsaken, could even recommend Fan to the Generalissimo, so he could join in on their revenge against Babylonia. The Forsaken are currently planning an offensive against the Clean Zone, and as long as New Oakley allows passage to their troops, their plan will succeed. Back at the inn, Commandant remains at a loss when the mayor finally makes an appearance. He explains that New Oakley is a haven for criminals, thugs, and people who can't make it anywhere else. But without Damon's capture to collaborate his story, Commandant and Noctis will only look like another pair of defectors to Babylonia, so by the mayor's own rules, they now count as part of these local criminals. With a slight smile, the mayor gets up to leave, officially inviting him and Noctis as new blood of New Oakley, when suddenly the two are interrupted by the terminal's alarm. Following the signal, they expect to find danger, and instead are greeted by Noctis and the townsfolk. Not long ago, Noctis fought off some hetero creatures targeting their food stock, and not a moment later their attitudes did a complete 180, now seeing Noctis as a town hero. After an afternoon of drinks and partying to celebrate their new residence, the mayor tells Commandant that for the two of them to stay in the town, they need to put themselves to work. Fan, his son and local sheriff, could use some help defending the town, and they always need extra hands preparing for their harvest festival. As for their investigation, the mayor gives his word he will do all that he can. Meanwhile, in the Forsaken stronghold of Oasis, they are currently under the command of their temporary leader, a man named Ballard. He takes a message that seems to come from New Oakley, as the man claims that Babylonia wants to absorb New Oakley into itself, a sentiment the Forsaken certainly don't agree with. The members present discuss the possibility of negotiation to calm the rising tension, when suddenly all of their terminals light up. A few days ago, Watanabe led a portion of the Forsaken to eliminate hetero creatures, and this young man named Zong was one of those who went with him. Through the static, those present can only make out a few phrases, but the message is clear. They have been attacked by the Purifying Force. As the video ends, the Forsaken erupt in anger, with Ballard trying to keep some measure of peace. He wants to look into the matter, to search for survivors and confirm the story before assigning blame. However, if true, the Forsaken will show no mercy, but to go against Babylonia, they will first need a trump card. Meanwhile, Commandant works the bar for the Harvest Festival, using that time to collect information on Damon and the other defectors. According to the locals, there's a group that hangs around the abandoned brewery, known troublemakers, even by New Oakley standards. The residents have noticed they've been making preparations, and their most likely target is the festival itself. While outside, Noctis works as security, patrolling the town while searching for clues. He learns that Fan met with an unknown construct on the eve of the festival and uncovers their plans for disabling the town's security systems. With this information, they manage to predict Damon's next move, successfully cornering him in a nearby alleyway. Noctis begins his interrogation and learns that Damon himself was sent as a vanguard, since the Forsaken are planning to use hetero creatures to attack New Oakley. Suddenly, Damon begins coughing up blood, but with no external injuries. He's been poisoned. This comes as a shock to Commandant, as what kind of poison could possibly work on a construct? Then Noctis, apparently having remembered something quite important, rushes out of the alley. He howls in the light of the town fire, calling out for the man named Nigel. Long ago, Noctis was a member of the Purifying Force, under its founder and first captain, Ballard. Serving alongside him was someone he considered a brother. While the two couldn't have been more different, their similar past experiences forged them into the strongest of allies. For the two, Ballard was an unshakable pillar of strength, the man who rescued them both from their lowest points. Together, the three were the spearheads of the Purifying Force, rooting out dissent and corruption with frightening efficiency, which only made that day all the more tragic. On a routine mission, Noctis had lost contact with both Nigel and Ballard, arriving at their location to see the body of the man he admired most dead at Nigel's feet. In an instant, his brother became his worst enemy, and in his attempt to avenge Ballard's death, he set off an explosion that consumed them all, with him being rescued as the sole survivor. Following that event, Bianca took up her new role as Purifying Force captain, with Noctis himself being transferred to the task force. The next day, the two try to figure out what Damon meant, confused how hetero creatures could be used to attack the town. But instead, it's more like they are being led. Noctis remembers the hetero creatures he fought earlier, and it seemed more interested in food than fighting. Together, they piece together that the abandoned brewery might be related to the upcoming attack, and Noctis is sent out once again to investigate. While searching, he learns that the next target isn't the festival, the mayor, or even the town, but Commandant himself. Later on, as Commandant closes the bar for the night, a lone stranger makes an appearance. Recognizing the man from Noctis' description, he takes the chance to try and probe Nigel for more information. As he leaves, Nigel calls out Commandant's identity as a Babylonian, immobilizing him with his poison, leaving him with just enough strength to deliver a message, to send Noctis his way, as the two have their own unfinished business. With his body going numb, Commandant uses the last of his strength to send the mayor a message, warning him of the impending attack. Soon after, Noctis returns from his investigation and finds Commandant succumbing to Nigel's poison. With his limited knowledge of first aid and no way of neutralizing the poison, Commandant hands over his terminal, telling Noctis to protect the mayor and save the town. He wipes out all of the invading forces, and with the town secure, he and Fan make their way back to the mayor's side. Wanting to get in contact with Commandant, Noctis takes out the terminal, only to hear a blood-curdling scream from the other end. With absolute haste, Noctis runs back to the bar, only to find two figures working over Commandant's body, 21 and Vera. Understandably confused by their appearance, Commandant explains that he was contacted by Vera prior to the terminal shutting off, and they managed to lower the effectiveness of Nigel's poison. And as for the screaming, Vera isn't well known for her gentle treatments. While discussing their next steps, everyone's vision is taken by a white light, as Asarius and the Purifying Force have made their way into town to arrest Noctis, with Vera and 21 wasting no time standing in front of their comrade. Noctis assumed that Cerberus would be fine without him, that Vera and 21 could carry on without issue. But Cerberus has 3 heads, and not a single less will do. As much as Noctis sees himself as expendable, the others see him as invaluable, and they'd be willing to fight the entire world to prove it. Before the tension reaches a boiling point, Commandant vouches that Noctis wasn't to blame for the transport's destruction, and Asarius decides to trust his words for now, sheathing his sword. As the Purifying Force leaves, they catch each other up on the state of the town. It's currently under siege from former Purifying Force assassins working under Nigel, and the hetero creatures at the hideout are nowhere to be found. Soon, Fan and the mayor join the group, and Fan admits Damon gave him materials to bribe the guards around the town warehouse, meaning that's likely where they moved the hetero creatures. So while everyone defends the town from invasion, Noctis will head to the warehouse and deal with Nigel once and for all. With Noctis' departure, the town's sirens begin blaring, signaling the arrival of the hetero creatures. With no way to defend the town, the mayor tells the citizens to leave, but this is the only place on Earth that would accept people as undesirable as them. Long story short, it's home, and there's not a single resident willing to give up that home without a fight. Having driven back Nigel's forces and wiped out the hetero creatures, all seems well, until 21 screams for Vera's help. Near the end of the fight, the spread of the poison accelerated due to Commandant's connection with Noctis. The increased heartbeat that comes with fear circulates the poison faster, so when Noctis, who was connected to Commandant, lets his fear get a hold of him, those feelings will bleed over. So to try and save them both, Commandant reaches out and initiates a deep mind connection. Having reached the outskirts of town, in the center of the old warehouse, Noctis finds his once brother in arms, and with no time to waste, he gets right to it.
I've been waiting for a chance to uncover the truth! Nigel!
You haven't changed. You still let anger blind you.
Nigel!
You never thought that my poison could exist outside of my weapon, did you? You never doubted a word I said. Soon, your mind will suffer the same fate as that human's heart. Critical failure.
Commandant, you must be disappointed in me. Damn it. Are you getting angry for me? So am I. Leave the rest to me. Let the asshole know our true fury, partner!
With Nigel's poison ravaging his body, he finds himself no better than Commandant himself, when within his mind a sudden fire is sparked. Through the deep mind connection, Noctis can feel the trust Commandant has in him, along with the desire to fight raging within them. The desire to put Nigel in the ground. With the fight over, Noctis extends a hand to the beaten man, hoping to free him from this Generalissimo who seems to be pulling all the strings. However, even if he wanted to change, he's in far too deep. Nigel responds by kicking Noctis away as the warehouse collapses, and the last thing he sees is a black silhouette among the flames. By the time everything calms down, Nigel is long gone, and his forces have been repelled from the town. After the mayhem Noctis caused, and a few backdoor deals from Vera, she managed to get the Purifying Force to transfer him back to the task force, and coincidentally, there just happens to be an opening in Cerberus. As for Asarius and his forces, they decide to let the sleeping dogs lie, since this tangent of theirs has cost them valuable time searching for the test subject, and with that they speed off to Conservation Area 109 to hunt down a remnant Echo. Alright, and you have just finished Floating Record 5, Sands of Wrath. I need to stop forgetting the names of these chapters. Yeah, but super quick chapter, right? Self-contained, essentially chapter 24.2, right? Because of the actions in the forest, Vera got in trouble with the court. Noctis took the heat for it, just so he could have an excuse to go down to the surface and hunt down Nigel, who's apparently not dead. Who is also most definitely working for Ballard, who is also not dead. So apparently Noctis isn't that good at making sure things are not alive anymore. Let's see, besides that, we got introduced to the whole community of New Oakley. It's cool to see that there are like little independent communities forming outside of the big factions. And then speaking of the big factions, apparently there's something huge going down with the Forsaken. Watanabe and some of the Forsaken that he was leading, they were attacked by what seems to be the Purifying Force. And so now the Forsaken are on the move, so it looks like that's going to lead to, Babylonia and the Forsaken butting heads. And then we also have this mysterious character, the Generalissimo, who seems to be like in the background doing stuff. So lots of interesting things. Excited to see where this goes in the next couple of chapters. But anyway, that's all I have. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you all in the next video, where we cover chapter 25 of the main story.
Absolute justice!
I'm sorry. I've had that one in the chamber since I learned the chapter's name. I had to get it out. It was either now or like all throughout the next video. But I'm sorry. Serious now. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you all in the next video, where we cover chapter 25 of the main story, Ever-Glowing Justice.